keep meaning to ask you, Elle, how is your mother doing?
Really well. It's been 7 weeks now and we're still going strong, though I have to keep a close eye on it.
It's really nice the way Louise is passing around the village. It's really bringing that community together.
Yes, according to the Times, it's a phenomenon of lockdown. That and sex toys.
Oh,
Passing your mother round is a phenomenon of lockdown. Really? I didn't think households could mix like that, and certainly not the elderly. Do people have those visor-type face masks? I saw they were selling for 89p on Amazon.
No, Jane, sourdough. Sourdough is a phenomenon of lockdown.
oh.
The mother is a fermented culture of flour and water. You keep
Ah!
it in a jar and you use a bit each time you make a loaf to make the dough rise. The village has gone mad for it. Cheese is our supplier. The Hampshire version of cocaine. It's addictive.
What about the sex toys?
I only read the headline and I thought, well, 1 out of 2 isn't bad. James is too busy strimming. You know, I found him entirely encased in the garden hedge the other day. Anyway, I like to see what I'm getting. And the quality online is no good. All that ragged stitching and poor quality workmanship. So demotivating. I can't find anywhere around here to buy that sort of thing.
Oh.
Though they did have sea bass at the local Sainsbury's yesterday.
Well, I've always found Twiggy very inspiring. I was listening to her podcast the other day, and she said one of the things she has come to appreciate is being creative with the things that you have at home.
There you go, Elle. Couple of those visors, wet fish, and some sourdough.
Fantastic. James loves a bit of role play.
Well, I'm not cheering for the NHS. Am I allowed to say that? I'm sure if I put it on Twitter, I'd be trolled into silence immediately without the chance to say why, but yeah. But of course people cheer for the NHS. Nurses and doctors have died in the pandemic, giving their lives in the course of carrying out their normal caring duties. Well, I expect porters and cleaners and caterers have too, though they're not romantic enough for journalists to tell us. But a phrase from the First World War springs to mind: lions led by donkeys. Well, the inquiries seem to be turning up evidence that the pandemic was anticipated yet not prepared for. Staff and stocks were run down to levels that couldn't match up. What do I know? However, personally, in ways that affect me, the NHS isn't working. Well, it's completely given up providing its usual services in order to deal with the emergency, and I can't see why. I mean, let me say now, I'm not a cancer sufferer, and my essential treatment hasn't been put on hold. Though, actually, how would I know, as routine testing has stopped for the moment? But listen to this. I have an appointment at the eye hospital in May for minor day surgery. A letter arrives. Dear patient, due to unforeseen circumstances, we have had to change your appointment from May to September. me see. What unforeseen circumstances? Oh yes, the entire country is in lockdown. Well, why don't they say so? Maybe because that's not the real reason. But like a lot of NHS areas, they are using it as an excuse because the original coronavirus legislation, which I have actually bothered to read, has not closed the hospital, nor has it barred me from travelling to obtain medical help. Maybe their staff have been reallocated to help with coronavirus patients. But they are trained and experienced specialists in eye care. I mean, really, what good would sending them to the front line do? I mean, I also suffer from mild panic attacks during my sessions with them, and when my breathing becomes rapid and shallow, a control measure I deliberately adopt to allow me to continue with the treatment, they get more panic than I do. So what chance would they stand with patients actually struggling for breath? Or maybe they've cancelled appointments because they can't do social distancing, because their normal modus operandi involves up to 60 patients in a waiting room. Sign in, sit and wait, see a technician, take test 1, sit and wait, see a technician, take test 2, sit and wait, see a doctor, maybe have some eye drops, sit and wait while they take effect, see the doctor. If it's a bad day, sit and wait while the consultant is consulted. 3 hours usually. I mean, wouldn't this be a wonderful opportunity to arrange appointments so that the patient moves straight from one specialist to another? I mean, if we all waited 2 meters apart at the next specialist station instead of in the general waiting room, and queues would stretch down the corridors, and it would soon become obvious which queues were longest and therefore which areas needed to be given permanently more or fewer staff. Now, it's not just the operation I will be missing at the cancelled appointment. It's the usual checkup to see that the daily medication is still effective, which actually it isn't, hence the need for the op. But let's just say a checkup to ensure that the situation isn't deteriorating too rapidly. Of course, for a fee, I can get this check done at the local optician, except that, like the dentist, despite being allowed by the legislation to continue business, he's shut up shop for the present. Now, this isn't the NHS's fault. Oh wait, I'm only attending a private optical and dental practice because these two services, once provided free on the NHS, are no longer readily available, if at all. And I don't expect you to remember those heady days in the 60s and 70s when the NHS really did look after all our medical needs. Still, this is Britain, and we are under attack. So the usual mantra applies: mustn't grumble. Though I am about to run out of the medication, and surprise, surprise, my local GP practice, which issues the prescriptions, has shut. Without a word of warning, I trot round there to discover the door's barred. So I ring to inquire. There's a box on the gate you can drop your request form in, they tell me. Oh yes, so there is, though it's well hidden because the gate, being closed, is not in the usual position. So, can I pick up my prescription? No, they'll send it to a local pharmacy of my choice. Now, for the past 9 years, I've been avoiding signing up to this service because I don't want to choose a single local pharmacy. I mean, sometimes I collect my prescription from the surgery and I take it to the chemist next door. Sometimes I take it to the one on the high street. Or if ever I need an unusual drug for a sudden specific ailment. Neither of these is open in the evenings. So I want to be able to use the one a mile away that stays open all hours. So now I'm signed up to the high street, unwillingly. I mean, what if they have to shut? Now, the second letter from the eye hospital is a really interesting one, though. Dear patient, the COVID-19 pandemic means that the NHS and the hospital are facing a significant challenge. Why, for heaven's sake? I've said this before, but you're an eye hospital. We are changing the way we do some things so that we can offer the eye care you need in the safest way. Okay. Because of the large number of appointments postponed during the pandemic, we are seeing those patients with conditions that put them at highest risk of sight loss first. We are cancelling your appointment. We will be in touch as soon as we can with details of your new appointment. We have produced some useful resources to help you manage your condition at home. Yeah, that'll be keep taking the medication then. Basically, I read this as, dear patient, we can't see you at the moment, but don't worry about your slowly deteriorating eye condition, which we can do nothing at present to try and alleviate, because, hey, you're at less risk of going blind than some of our other patients. Well, that's a relief. Is it though? Really? Hello? Hello?
You can see the sweat pouring down the poor woman's face. I don't like those funny mask things they've got Sylvia wearing. Creepy. Oh, it's weird not being able to see someone's mouth, and so claustrophobic. Personal protective equipment, PPE. All sounds very technical. It's like we're at war or something, and I suppose we are in a sense. Sylvia's a big woman, not fat, more comfortable. Oh, she doesn't half break a sweat. Now social services have got her working from, well, it's the back of her car, really. She says she's not allowed into her office since being redeployed from carer support to volunteer coordinator. And that's what, 2 months since we all got locked down. And despite all this heat, she's popping round to say hello, given my situation. And that's nice. Lady, it's nothing like as hot as home. There you can see the steam coming off the roads. I think she's from Zimbabwe. My cactus that's never bloomed before has a whopping great flower on it, and it smells a bit funny too. I ask her to have a look at it. I want to talk to her in private about Colin, but she declines, citing infection prevention and control. Well, I'm a bit deaf, so we're shouting at each other on my front doorstep, 2 metres apart, to minimise transmission rates. It's all surreal. So much for the confidentiality they're always on about. Where's your policy now? I ask her. We bump elbows. Well, I wash my hands anyway. I say, yes, I'm doing fine now. I've got myself into the swing of it. I can drop off shopping to Mrs. Bailey and Mrs. Feinstein as they're on my way back from Tesco's. And the walk to Helen Blake and Mr. Mohammed is good exercise as long as I don't carry too much with my dodgy back. Yes. I don't tell her, but I do their shopping in 2 trips. It's an excuse to get out since the pool's shut and I can't go to Aquafit. It helps to work on what Colin calls my spare tyre. Although he can talk. Our Paul says Dad's the one putting on lockdown poundage. And I say, well, it's not having his stroke club for 2 months. He just seems to eat and shout. I like to get up and get myself going first thing. Well, it's about keeping busy. Don't need an alarm, something to do with the light mornings and the birds, of course. I lay there lovely and warm until I can't stand Colin's thunderous snoring any longer. I slither out of bed, take a quick peek at his catheter bag, have a quick lick round with the old flannel, and then have an hour to myself before having to sort him out. It's easier now we've got the hoist. With him, it's always the same now. Tea, cornflakes, toast and peanut butter, medication, and bloody BBC News 24. News? What news? It's just wall-to-wall COVID. Stay home, save lives, protect the NHS. After all that endless Brexit, Colin shouts at the presenter. You know the one with the hair, Martin, something? Of course, with a stroke and everything, he's got a real thing for the NHS. Well, we all have. But the shouting, I'll take my hearing aids out. I've got my lists. No more loo roll. You know, it's more interesting shopping for other people. I saw anchovies on Mrs. Feinstein's list. She has them with asparagus. Well, I thought, let's give it a go. Very salty, and it's not for Colin. Smelly wee. I've got to know Darryl, who works at the back of the bakery at Tesco's in a funny ad. Have you done the poppy seed rolls yet? Mr. Mohammed likes them. Darryl sees my volunteer badge and slips me a couple before he puts them out. The staff are very good. All that one-way system confuses me. But I like that you can spray and wipe your basket. It's very reassuring. And I've discovered Lidl. I'm browsing those central aisles and I'm not the only one. Oh, no. How anybody can eat so many baked beans is a mystery, but Mrs. Bailey swears they keep her regular. She's always anxious I've bought enough, so I've started putting the tins in their own bag. And when I see her coming to the window to ask me, I'll just swing and point at the bag and mouth, 5 tins. I've never actually spoken to her properly. I mean, without the glass in between us. Sylvia says she's anxious about getting it and you need to be careful to shield your Colin. Just leave the bags in the porch and she'll take them in when you've gone. I'll say to Sylvia, look, to be extra careful, I use hand sanitizer, gloves and those antiseptic wipe things on everything I handled. It's the same for all my visits, gloves, sanitizer, wipes. Like they say, catch it, bin it, kill it. I can see Mrs. Bailey's a nice lady, maybe a bit arty, or keeps the porch immaculate though. Oh, she's a lovely pink geranium and one of those pottery hedgehogs by the door. I like to rub its nose. It's so quiet at 8 o'clock in the morning, queuing outside Tesco's. Pensioners and key workers only on Mondays and Wednesdays. I swear, not a car in sight. Mind you, loads of buses empty. Empty! Oh, well, maybe one person, a key worker like Sylvia, I suppose. I feel sorry for the drivers. They all look so glum. I've started waving at them and they often wave back, particularly the women and the Asian men. And there's a girl with lots of tattoos. With my hearing aids, it's nice not having all that traffic noise. I went and walked right down the middle of the road just for the hell of it. And there are so many more birds about. I've a little wren that hops about and something that tap, 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 taps all the time. Or maybe a woodpecker. I dug out my little Batsford book of birds the other day, keep it by the kettle ready. My friend Maggie says she saw a sparrowhawk. I said, you're joking. She says, no, with it being so quiet, they're getting more brave. It's true. Oh, Colin's not interested, just watches the telly. We've not had the planes either, and that's been a blessing. All those years of kerfuffle over Terminal 5, and here we are with nothing in the air. Colin's happy. He's convinced that this is the end of air travel as we know it. What with BA in such a state, sucking all the staff, or who'd be a pilot now? Now, Paul won't discuss it with his dad point blank. Says a terminal will bring lots of new jobs. No, I'll keep out of it. Mind you, Paul's not discussing anything with his dad at the moment. He's furloughed, been round a couple of times with Charlotte and the boys and waved through the window. I couldn't sit with them in the garden and leave poor Colin out, so I'll just wave too. He is on the phone, but it's not the same. Sylvia says all the social services clubs are closed to protect the vulnerable. And my Monday carers group. I called Maggie. She says her daughter's moved in to help her look after Ted, so they don't need carers coming and going, bring the virus in with them. Apparently, some of them have been getting ill and gone into hospital, critical. Oh, it's been on the news. I'm terrible about the nurses. I say to Paul, see, this is why we didn't get carers for your dad, and now we're glad we didn't. Think of the risk with them visiting so many people. No, Mum, he says. You don't have carers because Dad wouldn't have them. Well, he has got a point. Anyway, it's about keeping busy. Colin doesn't like change. I hate mince of just the smell. But now he absolutely has to have cottage pie Monday, Wednesday and Fridays, like at the club. If I try to slip myself a salad or one of those nice Linda McCartney fish cakes instead, he goes ballistic. I had a go at making one of those mask things. Oh, it's very hot when you've got it on. They showed you how on the one show, and there was a pattern in the paper, and it was nice to do, like being at school. I cut up a shirt I've absolutely no chance of ever wearing again, and it's all hand sewn. Well, something to do. Anyway, I've cleared out a bit of the shed and put up a table, made a bit of a nest and got a little radio going, all cosy. I can't hear the telly, and as long as I pop back every few minutes, Colin's fine. He keeps asking about when it's time to go to the club. The district nurse said the routine of going used to help keep him orientated when she was dressing his leg. I mentioned the shouting, but she had to go. Maggie says she's not watching the news much anymore. Well, it's all transmission rates, testing stations, second spike warnings, stay alert, control the virus, save lives. Seems we got locked down too late. Who was being alert then? Oh, and those poor care homes. Boris missed a bloody economy. That Martin Webb on the news looks like he's lost the will. Oh, me too, matey. The clapping stopped. Well, it sort of petered out. It was nice seeing the neighbours saying thank you. We thought we'd have a bit of a party in the street when it was all over. But there is no over. Not really. Maggie's daughter had to go back home. Neil's been laid off, been painting the front door. Paul says Boris just seems to be on the defensive. Says things will pick up, but there's no sign of stroke club starting this year. This year. Oh. Colin was shouting so loud this morning I thought he'd bust a gut. They sent the district nurse round to check he's not got another infection. She says this is what to expect when someone's got dementia. I say, he's not got dementia. Well, nobody told me he has. She says it's in his file. The park was lovely yesterday. The bracken's so high you almost fall over the deer when they're sitting down in it. I've got a bit of a new routine now. Get breakfast done, leave Colin with his emergency button round his neck. He hates that thing. And then off to the park. I'm already getting to recognise the regulars. People say, hello. And they've all got lovely dogs. Paul thinks I shouldn't leave his father. And I've not said anything to the district nurse. He's developing a pressure sore and she thinks he'll need a nursing home soon. Says we need to talk about it as a family. Paul's in bits. I was a bit naughty and added a couple of tins of prunes to Mrs. Bailey's order. Now beans are off and prunes are on the menu. Oh yes, 5 tins every week. I know she's had a visitor because the front lawn's been cut and my little hedgehog's been moved. She hasn't come to the window as usual. She's just sitting there. She looks really awful, all crumpled. I wave the bag of tins, but she's coughing too much. I mouth, are you all right? She indicates a sore throat and there's spittle on her sleeve. Something's clearly up. On the window, there's a new child's painting of a rainbow and the words, to Granny and thank you NHS key workers and volunteers. I'll point at the porch and go in with her shopping. It's warm and I shut the door. Standing there in the privacy of that tiny space, I close my eyes, breathing deeply and smell the musty scent of the geranium. Just me in the quiet with my thoughts and no shouting. There's a tin of baked beans I bought for Colin in the car. I'll go and get it and slip it into the bags I leave in the porch. The sun's up and I slowly walk a circuit of the block, taking in the fading remnants of the NHS rainbows stuck in the windows. Arriving back outside Mrs. Bailey's, she's taken in the bags but left the unwanted tin of beans out on next to the geranium. Inside the porch, I examine it carefully and it's smeared with her spittle. Oh, I'm still wearing gloves, clean it, kill it, bin it. Only I'm not cleaning or killing it. And instead I'm very carefully bagging it. I hear Mrs. Bailey coughing badly. I suppose she's lost her sense of smell too. The hedgehog's been tidied into the corner. He looks at me accusingly, but I'm sure. The telly's on at home, and Colin demands to know when he's going to the club, and it's fast approaching cottage pie time. I call Sylvia to say about Mrs. Bailey, but a lady called Maria answers the phone. She asked me brusquely if I've had any face-to-face contact with Sylvia in the last 2 weeks, which I haven't. Only Sylvia's suddenly been taken ill and gone into intensive care. Maria explains she's now my allocated coordinator. It won't be the same. I suggest someone needs to check on Mrs. Bailey that it looks like the family visited and didn't keep their distance. I apologise and say that under the circumstances, someone else needs to take over our shopping visits. I'm washing up in my marigolds and just handed Colin Mrs. Bailey's tin of beans, having carefully extracted it from the bag. He's rotating it with both hands and rubs his face. Yes, I could fancy these with my cottage pie, he says. I take it back carefully and rub it under the hot tap with a dab of Dettol. Lovely, I'll join you. They say coronavirus can live up to 9 days on an uncleansed metal surface. Let's see.